time that I spent at St Catharine's was probably the happiest time of my life.
Cambridge has been a huge influence on my career.
Without it, I wouldn't have sort of got anywhere, really.
I think that St Catharine's was genuinely the defining moment in my entire career.
I felt so at home and comfortable there.
Gets into you and underneath your skin.
It was always good fun.
It did really totally change my life, and I'm very grateful to it.
St Catharine's is one of the ancient foundations of the University of Cambridge. It was founded in 1473, before the European Reformation and before the discovery of the Americas. Its founder, Dr. Robert Woodlark, was the Provost of Kings, but it is not true, as is sometimes claimed, that he raided the funds of kings in order to fund the new foundation. He paid for it with his own money. St Catharine's Hall, as it was then known, was the smallest and possibly also the dullest of the late medieval Cambridge colleges. You can still see the outline of the modest medieval buildings on the lawn of the main court in very dry summers. St Catharine's got a lot more interesting in the 16th century. There was a lot of dicing, shooting, both illegal, and football, though oddly enough, in those days, football was only allowed inside the walls of the college.
The college is in good shape, I would say, very upbeat and very optimistic. So we're consistently in the top handful of colleges in the inevitable academic league tables, although we don't take them too seriously. And we're particularly proud this year of our finalists because they've been ranked independently as the best finalists across the whole university, which makes us and them feel very proud. This reflects both the hard work and caliber of our students, whom we admit on the basis of their potential to benefit from a Cambridge education and regardless of means or background, and also the quality of teaching and pastoral care that we provide for the students. And one of the challenges for us in the future is to ensure that we can go on providing this at the same high level.
We're making history tonight with this dinner, and before saying anything else at all, I would like to echo the remarks of the Master in saying that this concept for a 1473 foundation and this dinner is entirely the work of our Fellow of Development Director, Deborah Lovelock, and her team. And I think we should really applaud what is a fantastic
We are, of course, not just a college for undergraduates. About a third of our total student body of just over 600 is currently graduate students. We have about 200 doing PhDs, masters, and the clinical vets and the clinical medics. And they are a very important part of the college. They provide a new dimension and they enrich college life enormously. And it's for this reason that we have invested in a new graduate accommodation block on the site of the very popular Russell Street hostel, halfway between here and the station.
The reason I chose St Catharine's was that I didn't really know anything about applying to Cambridge when I applied, and I emailed the admissions tutors at several different colleges, and I got an email back from St Catharine's about half an hour later, and it was a couple of paragraphs long, a good, really informative, really helpful, friendly email. And so I thought, if they care this much about their interview candidates, then hopefully they'd care that much about the students as well.
In regards to why I chose St Catharine's, really it was on recommendation. I spoke to two people who had been to Cambridge. One had been to Trinity Hall, one had been to Magdalen, and they both gave me a list of their top 5 colleges. Now, Cats was in both of those.
The thing that really impressed me about St Catharine's, and has always impressed me about it, is how inclusive it is, how friendly it feels, particularly to someone who, I'm not saying I didn't exactly have a chip on my shoulder, but I was slightly wary of Cambridge, having been from a comprehensive school, and I was hugely reassured by the people that I met, and I felt so at home and comfortable there.
I was at Durham school, and it was the Church of England Foundation, so there was a canon, you know, an enormously tall figure, who, in whose presence one remained standing, I remember. And he said to me, "Oh, Patty, yes. Now, which college of Cambridge are we going to send you to, I wonder?" And I said, "I don't know, sir." And he said, "I think St Catharine's for you, somehow." And most of them went to St John's. But for some strange reason, there were 2 guys who had gone to St Catharine's. And I never really quite got to the bottom of this.
I came from a very sort of humble background with parents that had no idea of what a university was, and I was an only child. But I went to a state grammar school, and for some reason they thought, the headmaster thought I could cope with this sort of thing, and he said, "I think St Catharine's would be a good choice, so let's try there." It was a good choice, and I made it. And later I said to him, "Why did you think Cambridge rather than Oxford?" And he said, "Serious people go to Oxford."
I think it was my housemaster, or maybe it was my English teacher, I can't remember now, I did English, who said, "Well, you should try St Catharine's." Whether that was because it was a soft option or something else, I don't know. I mean, I was incredibly lucky.
I liked the people I was in my year. I liked the idea of being in college, although I didn't feel I really belonged. You had to have all your meals there, actually. And actually, I do remember on my first day that venison was on the menu. Well, I'd never had venison. I wasn't quite sure what it was. And I ate it all and felt surrounded by these public school boys that I was in a new world. And at the end of the meal, I left the cabbage on the plate. Not, I think, because it was as badly cooked as cabbage I'd had at school, which I'd hated, but simply as some sort of principle that now I could leave my cabbage. I was old enough to do that and to decide what. Brought up during the war, people in my age didn't leave food on their plates. It was a precious commodity, but that day I did.
It was the 17th century that saw the college break the narrow bounds of the medieval institution, and it was our great good fortune that the master of Gonville and Quays, Dr. John Gostlin, chose to bequeath the Bull Inn on Trumpington Street, a very fine and substantial building, to St Catharine's, much to the chagrin of his former Quays colleagues. The college was still a rather squat and small establishment. Its front faced towards Queen's College. Trumpington Street was still cut off by a long row of townhouses and inns. Only in the decades between the 1680s and the 1760s did the elegant court that still dominates the island site today, the main court, come to take shape, helped along by a generous bequest from Mrs. Mary Ramsden, the largest single gift in the history of the college. We should perhaps draw the curtains of charity over the 19th century in the college's history. A long shadow was cast after 1861 by the so-called Robinson vote, in which a fellow of the college secured the mastership by voting for himself, and then had the nerve to stay on in the master's office for nearly 50 years. It's a sign of just how bad things were that the Fellows of King's College made a bid to take over this college in 1880. Thank goodness they failed.
So, if we're going to distinguish between these 6 compounds and using carbon, NMR,
For me, I think the supervisions have been sort of one of the key parts to my learning. I think that lectures are obviously very informative, and your own work is really, really helpful, working with a textbook on your own. But to actually get sort of, you know, what are leaders in their fields, talking to you one-on-one, one-on-two, asking you questions, pushing you, covering the things that maybe the lecturers didn't have time to do or the textbooks don't really make too clear, I think is really important.
The key point is to have a discussion, to have a debate with the student, so that the student, rather than simply asking one question, can actually follow through and ask several questions and can get into a debate and discussion with the person doing the supervision.
I think the supervision system's great because it means you get to know people who are really, really strong in their field, and it's really good for teaching and having a person you can ask rather than just being told in the lectures and, you know, having no way to ask questions. But I like the way it's so personal as well.
The college spends a higher percentage of its wealth on teaching and providing teaching at all levels than any other college I know. I mean, we have more research fellows almost than Trinity College, which is about, I don't know, 20 times as wealthy as we are. We support a very large number of college teaching officers. Even in these difficult financial times, we continue to support junior research fellows, and that's very important to keep the whole academic life ticking over.
We are a much less homogeneous body at the undergraduate level than we once were, more various in terms of race and creed and social and economic background and school type.
I suppose it was mildly frustrating for me because I just wanted to do physics really, and you know, I was studying things that I didn't necessarily have a talent for. Yeah, I found it really, really hard. I found it unbelievably hard. God, it was such a shock, you know, how hard that course was.
I used to feel sorry. I had a friend who did engineering, and I mean, he had to go to lectures in the morning. I mean, it was an unwarranted intrusion, I thought. It was very, very hard work. Medics, I think, had to work quite hard. Scientists of one kind or another had to work pretty hard.
And it was the beginning of a kind of free thinking about education that that really, really impressed me at the time.
Tom Hen was a wonderful oddity and rather consciously different. And I loved the Monday evenings, or was it Tuesday evenings, when we went round to his rooms and just sat around smoking his bachelor tipped cigarettes. And that was so romantic to me. I think probably we wore our gowns but took them off on arrival. I just sat around and I don't know how it worked. I think subjects were thrown out by Tom and we chased them and ran with them and pulled them apart, and I think probably I just sat rather quietly, but I used to really look forward to those.
First of all, we want to provide a good education for them, but that in its broadest sense, apart from the academic, the strictly discipline-related aspects, we hope that we teach them to think, to evaluate, to be objective, and I think they learn a bit of time management because they cram a lot into these 8 weeks.
I played university hockey in my first year.
I've played hockey.
I got involved in acting.
Football.
Did a bit of cricket.
Badminton.
And also swimming.
All sorts of sports for the college.
Then the footlights came along.
I was the JCR Vice President in my second year.
And I've also sort of been involved in the JCR.
My father had said, before I went up, I was the first person in my family ever to go to university. But he had got very particular notions about what Oxbridge was like, most of which were wrong, of course. And he had said, you must join all the political clubs. But eventually, I realized that what I wanted to do was to get involved in journalism. And that, for me, was the great... I mean, you know, I played a bit of sport. I'm pretty useless at sport, but you know, with teams for every ability. I played a bit of sport. But I started turning up at varsity and being given reporting jobs, and then eventually I became the features editor, and then I became the editor.
I think from the very start, people are kind of encouraged, cajoled, even pushed into some activities here, which is really good. It gets everyone involved in things. So I think I've had lots of opportunities to, be involved in lots of ways. I was JCR president before Nick, which was a really good experience, I think, overall. I was captain of the football team, which is probably my favourite thing, I think, for the time here. And I was involved in the Shirley Society, which is the literary society which invites guests.
Another highlight for me at CATS has been the kittens. It's the sporting society that's been going on here for, well, not quite 100 years, but started early in the 20th century.
One of my proudest memories of St Catharine's is all the sports that we've won. In my first year, the girls won football Cuppers final. I've played in hockey Cuppers matches, and we've won the Cuppers final several times.
When I first started playing mixed netball, I think it was the first time that I really felt cat spirit, and there was 30 of us, and we all went and played Jesus College at mixed netball, and we all went in lycra and spandex and all looked like Mr. Motivator, and we lost dramatically, but it was the fact that we were all there, all having such an amazing time, so much fun, and I think at that moment that was like where it turned, and I thought, yeah, CATS is really for me.
I never went to see St Catharine's play anything sportif. I must have been a pretty wretched member of the college, really.
I think CATS gives you lots of opportunities to get involved, and hopefully, people take advantage of that in the whole. Doing it for the wheel.
For the wheel, yeah.
It's not really about league tables, though league tables are nice if you're high up them, not so nice if you aren't, but is about them having the maximum range of opportunities.
In addition to the sport of various sorts, there's the music, and the music is quite wonderful in this college. We have a terrific choir.
I am particularly proud of the academic performance, but I would not be proud of that if we had been compelled to change our character as an institution in order to be able to achieve that performance, and I don't think we have.
We have many aims in the Alumni and Development Office: fundraising, but principally strengthening ties with the college and keeping you involved.
And thank you all for coming along this afternoon. And thank you all indeed for everything that you are doing for the college, not only to secure its future in these uncertain times, but also to secure its past, because if this college doesn't have a future, then I think one can truly say it will also not have a past. What I want to talk about this afternoon is the crisis which brought about the First World War.
There were lectures given, and some of them were terribly good. I mean, there were lectures I remember very vividly even now. Lectures on Shakespeare. A man called Tony Spearing used to give fantastic lectures on Sir Gawain and the Grainer Connector, and the one or two Chaucerian lectures, one or two lectures on Jacobean drama and so on.
And so I think, although one can say the Serbian government was not responsible, the Serbian state did carry a big share of the responsibility.
St Catharine's has a rich history spanning more than 5 centuries. It has been entrusted to us for the present. We hope to be able to hand it on to our successors as a strengthened and enhanced college fit for purpose. We know that there will be challenges ahead in doing this, not least
financial.
We're here tonight because we've got this feeling for the college, but that's not enough. There used to be a time when we could sit back and say, well, the college is excellent, everything's fine, everything's going on all right, and so on. And the oxygen of excellence, i.e. what some people call resources, which I call money, was sort of flowing in here from places like government and so on. And we know governments just don't do this sort of thing. They certainly don't look after places like St Catharine's. And the college is deeply grateful to all of you here tonight who have been so generous. And all I would say to you is that we need more people, and we need people to think about, should I come back to the well and possibly revisit? Does the college need a little more from me? Only individual people can answer that question.
As you can see from this film, St Catharine's is in rude health, with our students leading on all fronts. The government carried the burden of financing many students through their university education. Now, with the return to reduced state funding, we look once again to our members who share our affection and vision for their college to help us create a secure future for St Catharine's. The St Catharine's campaign was launched in 2009 to raise £30 million over a 5-year period to support the 3 core areas of greatest importance to the college: endowment, teaching and buildings. As the Development Director of St Catharine's, I would like to ask you to consider a gift to the St Catharine's campaign to secure a bright future for the college.
It was the 20th century, and particularly its latter half, that saw the rebirth of this college as a major centre of excellence for research and teaching. Undergraduate facilities have been comprehensively improved and continue to be so today. The number of fellows has expanded from around 30 in the 1970s to well over 60 today, including 9 junior research fellows who make an important contribution to the intellectual life of the college. And of course, we have excellent undergraduate teaching across the board. Most importantly, today's St Catharine's is a diverse, tolerant, balanced, friendly and civilized community of scholars and students. In all these ways, it continues to fulfill the promise foreseen by its founder and its many benefactors.
Had I not gone to Cambridge, I might have thought I wasn't quite cut out for Shakespeare, and without all the training at Cambridge.
If I look at the thing that made the total difference and transformed my life, it was my time at St Catharine's.
But if a person had crept up and said, I am good at astrology and I've just seen you will be on the stage next year, I'd have said, well, do you mind? You're drunk, go away. And if somebody said, by the way, actually not satisfied with that, I've also seen that you'll be a member of Parliament. And I would have said, no, come along, please, you really are drunk, you see, because I had no intention, no idea of doing that kind of thing.
It changed my life, frankly. It changed my life completely. I came up as a very sort of insecure, working class chap. It changed the way I spoke, which I should be ashamed of, but that's how it worked out. Met some wonderful friends that have stayed with me all my life and gave me sort of confidence to do the sort of things I have done since then, which have been rather unusual. But without the enormous social jump from a working class background here, I wouldn't have done that.
I think for me the most important thing was a sense of possibility. I kind of think my horizons when I arrived at St Catharine's were quite limited, really, in terms of what I might do or what I might be able to achieve. And I started to understand that everything was accessible.
Harvard Business School is fantastic at fundraising, absolutely terrific. And they write to you every couple of weeks. But my heart always says I'll give to St Catharine's, because St Catharine's was the one that made the most significant difference in my life.
We can all be as selfish as anything and say, well, I'm through and no other members of my family are going, so I couldn't care less. But that isn't what characterises St Catharine's people. And if we heard in 10 or 15 years' time that we couldn't afford to do this, or we couldn't afford to do that, or we were having to shrink the numbers and all sorts of things, it would be very, very dire, and it would hurt people.
And now I'm an honorary fellow of St Catharine's. I can walk across the grass, which I do at every opportunity. Waiting for someone to tell me I can't do it.
We would hope that we teach them to aspire to high standards of excellence in whatever they do.
I don't know what it is quite, but as I said when I retired, I'm not naturally an institutional person. I never felt particularly attached to my school. I never joined the old boys, and I see myself much more as a sort of private person on the whole. And St Catharine's is unique in my experience as being an institution to which I've had strong feelings of bonding and of affection.
I thought that it was a straightforward kind of place, an unglamorous, warm, wholesome, exhilarating sort of place to be, really.
The thing I will look back on is it's just such a privilege to have been in such a great intellectual ferment that really you get in so few other places in the whole world.
I consider that I owe the college a lot.
It did really totally change my life, and I'm very grateful to it.
It turns the ordinary into the extraordinary.
It was a community. It was a genuine community, and it did, I thought, a really good job in the way that perhaps slightly more self-regarding places don't.
If it's about anything, it's about excellence. That's St Catharine's, that's the message, and I just think it's just a wonderful place to be involved in.